Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Blackpacking. I am your host, Jerrica, and on today's episode, our guest, her name is Tarika. Yes, our names rhyme, and we are also kind of matching today. Black shirt, blue jeans, brown boots, so she got the memo.
20.
Yeah. How are you doing today, Tarika?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to stay warm.
I know. So we're trying to stay warm. We're here in Atlanta, Georgia, and so I brought Tarika on the show for a few reasons. One being our names rhymed, and the second being of this really cool thing that she does here in Atlanta called the Black Girls Magic Tours, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
So, Black Girl Magic Tours is a tour company where it is a guided luxury mural crawl for brown girls. We go to different mural sites around the city and just talk about the history
of the murals
of each mural and talk about the artists and talk about how we connect to the art and just explore how we're magical as women of color.
Yeah, and you started in the middle of the pandemic. You started in August. Kudos to you for starting a business. During these times, I know a lot of people just, when this happened, they had time to like kind of sit down and like reassess like, you know, their purpose, like what they wanted to do, like any ideas, like things that they had always wanted to pursue. They were like, all right, this is now the time, and you did it. So props to you. What was kind of like the inspiration behind it?
Well, I'm a traveler first and foremost. So I love to get up and go, and prior to the pandemic, prior to 2020, I've been fortunate to travel to different countries, to different continents, and in my travels, I always try to allocate time for excursions.
Yeah.
And so I would always seek out opportunities to view art around the city.
Yeah.
Graffiti art, murals, and I would always capture those pictures. And so I was in a city, I believe it was Cartagena, and I was taking a look at all of the murals, and I was like, man, Atlanta has some beautiful murals as well. And in Cartagena, there are murals that feature beautiful Black women, like just beautiful Black women. And so in seeing that, I was like, Atlanta has murals too. So it would be great if like people saw how many murals there were here that really celebrate the beauty and intelligence of Black women.
Yeah.
And later on, I went to Belize, and I met a stranger who actually was, we connected, we became friends on the trip. And I left Belize, and they contacted me and said that they were going to be going to Houston, connecting in Atlanta, and had a few hours of a few layover hours. Wanted to get out of the airport, so picked them up from the airport, and they asked, "So what are we gonna do?" And I was like, "I'm gonna show you some murals and like show you around the city." And she told me later it was one of the best experiences. Never saw Atlanta like that.
Yeah.
And loved it. Loved the murals, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna make this a thing. And after a few reiterations, talking to my friend Charlie, who add this luxury touch to it, it became a thing where it's a guided mural crawl tour and a luxury sprinter, and it is a celebration of us.
Yes, I love that. So a little bit more about the tour. How long is it? How many people? What's the max amount of people? You started during a pandemic, so you kind of already went into it making it, COVID friendly. So kind of how has all that been?
Right, right. So the tour is traditionally about 3.5 hours long from start to finish. Yeah, starting in a pandemic, you just kind of naturally have to take precaution. And so, the Sprinter van has a max capacity of it's a 15-seater, but in terms of guests, we'll welcome 12 guests, up to 12 guests. But we've actually been cutting back to about 10, and have only had one tour where we've actually allowed more than 10 people on board. But we some of our COVID practices are our safety practices are wearing a mask, sitting apart, and that has for the most part worked for people.
Yeah.
Sit apart, keep your mask on, and hand sanitizer.
Everything's good.
We have a temperature gun, so all of that.
Yeah, and what's amazing, so what we're in December now, and you started in August, and it sounds like you've already been having some tour groups, so people, the second they saw it, were attracted to it. When I saw what you were doing, I was like, oh, let me find out like a little bit more about this tour, because being a solo traveler, one of the first things I do when I get to a new place is like, okay, which tour am I gonna take? Typically I'll do like a free walking tour, and that's a good way for me to already get like a layout of the city, and like have like a local tell me, oh, this is where you should go, this is where you shouldn't go, to do whatever I'm interested in doing. So I like love the idea of tours for people, because it's like just creating an experience that I feel like people like take that back home with them, and they get to learn something that they never knew before. And I kind of have history being a tour guide as well, and being inspired by taking tours when I travel. And when I lived in Asheville, I started doing coffee tours there, and I worked as a barista at the time. And so I just like kind of asked my boss like, hey, what do you like think about this idea of like doing a coffee tour? At the time there was already like a few different food tours and like beer tours, and like there was a rooftop bar tour, so I was like, why not a coffee tour? There are like so many amazing coffee shops just like right downtown in Asheville, and then also people that roast their own coffee in Asheville. So I was like, why not highlight that? And I was like, I know when I go somewhere, like I like to do tours, like that's what I like to do. So I know that there are people that want to do that, so I created that. And so when I saw you all doing the tours, I was like, oh, I gotta know more. Like, very, very into what you're doing, and I wish you the most success doing it. I have no doubt that you will be successful. And I also, like, one of my favorite tours that I took was a graffiti tour in Bogota, actually. In Colombia. And that was one of my favorite tours, because I didn't realize that graffiti was legal in Colombia, and so it kind of went through the whole history of how they got to that point, which was actually kind of like a sad history, and it involved like a young graffiti artist from Bogota like dying, but the result of that is graffiti now being legal in Bogota, and so there's just art everywhere. And there's tours going on, so, and that was one of my favorite tours, because a lot of the art is kind of representative of Colombian culture and like their history, especially like dealing with like Pablo Escobar, and kind of feeling like seeing him as like a hero, and also like a stain that's kind of been left on their country, and why people like may think their country's like dangerous, and just all these little things. And it was just like, I remember vividly so many art pieces from doing that tour. So graffiti tour is where it's at.
Right. But you know what? Hearing you say that you were in Asheville and you created something because you saw that something wasn't there, and you're like, well, why not? Like, I think that's the beauty of an idea. Like, seeing what's not there, and instead of saying, oh, well, that's not, no one's tapped into that.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it like that. Getting after it and saying, well, there's an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an opportunity with what you're doing here. Like, I mean, I've only been in Atlanta for a little bit over a month now, but I have been very attracted to just the graffiti art that I've seen in the city, and it's forever changing, especially this year. It's been very like politically motivated.
Absolutely.
So I've been very like drawn. I've actually started following some local artists here in Atlanta, because I like want to be like, what are they up to? They're like putting out some like really powerful messages. So I definitely think like what you're doing, like I love it. I love it so much. I can't wait to take a tour. We might even do like a special little episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to give y'all too much, but just like a sneak peek of what the tours are about. So moving forward, how do you see 2021 looking for you? Traveling wise, tour wise, personal life wise.
Oh, okay. So okay. So
You're like,
if 2020 has taught me anything,
you're like, we got 2 weeks left.
Right. If 2020 has taught me anything, it's like throw your plans out the window and just like live in this moment. But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, for 2020, I was able to travel.
Yeah.
I was able to go to Los Angeles last month, and I was able to go to visit one of my best friends. And I was able to travel to Tulum the previous month with my girls, and so you can still travel. There's still things to do, and I actually am going to the North Georgia cabins.
Oh, you're doing that
this weekend.
Oh, I'm jealous.
So there's still
Yeah.
you can still move around.
Yeah.
You might not be able to take that trip to Cape Town, South Africa,
Yeah.
but you can find your tribe and make sure that you're able to do something. So my plans personally are to stay alive for 2021. With regard to like the vaccine coming out, I hope that will hopefully give some people some hope. I know that a lot of people in my community of black women, black men, really distrustful of anything that's government sanctioned.
Yeah.
So they're not really like first in line to get this vaccine,
Yeah.
but I think that might drive people it might make things a bit safer if this vaccine does work. So right now, I am not worried about my business like not selling any tickets. I'm more so trying to build my brand and build momentum, so that when COVID is behind us, you know that this is still here.
Yeah.
And so that's what 2021 will be: building my brand and building momentum. And
That sounds like a good plan. I want to touch on a couple things that you said. You brought up Tulum, and I actually saw a meme yesterday, and
I can imagine what it said.
And it was like, I hope 2021 gives us more places than Tulum to travel to.
I mean, that is the only place that's open, right?
Yeah, and I was like, that made me laugh. And I actually haven't been to Tulum, and I know it's like a very like popular place to travel, and so I've been like kind of like putting it off, but I've also been getting like antsy to like travel. So I've been looking at like maybe going in like February or March. I'm gonna break down and see what Tulum has to offer.
and before that, I stayed at a resort in Akumal, which is north of Tulum, and they were practicing. It was safe, right? You know, wearing your mask when you were out. It was just. Some places are taking it seriously, and you're able to still move about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been hearing a lot of different travel stories on how resorts and hotels have been enforcing and also like accommodating during like the times of COVID. So it has been. The more travel stories I keep hearing, the more comfortable I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go to Tulum and I can like find a place and be fine, be away from the general public. The second thing I wanted to touch on, because I feel like this has been kind of, like whispers, like talk of conversation, but it hasn't like really been like super talked about, or like I haven't really talked about. But it's just like the vaccine coming out, and just what you kind of mentioned about, us being a little like, about it, but you know, the hope of it being out so other people kind of feel safe. And you know, I was just talking to my dad the other day, and he is 70. You know, and he has some health issues, and he's still been like, you know, working his yard, like wearing his mask, like not really going to the grocery store. And he said like the same thing. He was like, I can't wait for this vaccine to come out. He was like, not because I'm gonna take it, but just so everyone else can take it. And I think it's a very interesting kind of mentality that we have about like vaccines and the history behind that. And I also was reading this article online about, you know, blacks should not be considered like anti-vaxxers, because you know there's a reason why we feel like uncomfortable about taking the vaccine. It was giving like the history of, you know, just like medical experiments and like vaccines that have, you know, we've essentially been like the test subjects. Yeah, and for so long. And I feel like it's something that's not really talked about that much, and so it's like I really want people, as this vaccine does come out and people start to get like divided on it, and just kind of like, you know, where I stand and like where I feel like a lot of people like me stand, you know.
Yeah, and I don't even think that like people are anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
I feel like this vaccine has been created rather quickly,
Yeah.
and so people, you know, within this year,
and
just in a few months, and we all take vaccines. We all got polio shots as babies and things like that. But you're kind of hesitant because you know, like who was tested.
Yeah.
It's just
I know.
It's just a long.
But like I was happy to absolutely. But I was happy to see like that article like push that like idea of like, hey, no, we're not anti-vaxxers. Like there's a reason why. Like we feel this way. And so I was like, is someone like speaking for me? It was like one of those. I was like, because I feel like, you know, I've been. Anyways, we'll move on.
But I'll take the vaccine. I might not be first in line, but I'll take it.
I feel like the travel industry, any of us that want to travel, will have to see. We'll have to see that vaccine, unfortunately. But it's very interesting, like that whole topic on vaccines. All right, so I got these interview deck cards from Pod Decks that I like to ask people a couple questions, because I really like these cards and they're really fun and they're not travel related.
Okay.
They're just kind of random cards. All right. If you could undo one moment in your life, what would it be?
There are a number of situations that I placed myself in that I probably should not have, and I would probably say if I could undo something, it would have been a relationship that I was in.
Okay.
I probably would not have continued with the relationship as long as I did, and I wouldn't have been with the person who I was with. Great learning experience.
Yeah.
And great opportunity for me to grow, but I probably would have experienced that growth without that person.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. All right. That's what I was gonna ask you. And I was like, well, if you feel like you learned from it, if you had never experienced that, you know, would you feel like you would still be in the same position or growth that you have had so far?
Yeah. I think age has made me wiser.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I probably just didn't need to be in that relationship.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. What about, is there a trip that you would undo if you could?
A trip. So my parents are West Indian.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's from Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
I spent my childhood summers in Jamaica all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And so I didn't vow that I would never go back to Jamaica. I just said that I would go to different places. I was like, I'll go to Jamaica because my parents still have a home there.
Yeah.
And so I will go visit them. But one time I went to Jamaica to stay at a resort, and after I went, I was kicking myself like, why did I waste my time and money going to a Jamaican resort when I could have gone anywhere around the world during that time off? I've seen Jamaica.
Yeah.
I've lived there for many months.
So that one trip you would have
Yeah.
to do. That's fair. You know, I've asked this question on the show, so I'm not gonna ask that one. I'm gonna switch it up. Another one I've asked. All right, this one's gonna be a freshie. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach?
That's a great question. So my background is in education.
I was gonna say, is this an easy one for you?
My background is in education, and a little about me. I started a blog years ago, like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A little less than 10 years ago, and the blog was on natural hair for black women.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't so much about like hairstyles.
Mm-hmm.
I did feature hairstyles. I talked more so about like the socio-political climate around the whole movement from relaxed hair to natural hair.
Yeah, because like about 10 years ago.
That's when it was really big and booming and thriving.
Yeah.
And we started seeing a lot of companies that had never catered to us in our natural hair before start tapping into us. You know, we are a multi-billion industry when it comes to hair.
Yeah.
So I had a blog, and it was quite successful, and I actually won an award in Atlanta for best hair blog. And then I started school. I started working on my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And my dissertation was titled The Deconstruction of Black Women Teachers. And I'm thinking about it, today marks 5 years since I graduated.
Yeah.
5 years. I graduated December 17th, 2015. But my dissertation was around Black women, as I examined their experiences as teachers. And this year, 5 years later, I have Black Girl Magic Tours. And so I think that if I were going to teach a class, if I was to teach a class about anything, it would probably be a celebration of Black women's accomplishments.
Okay.
From the beginning of time until now.
You know, sign me up.
There is, like, the class will go on forever.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the contributions of the queens and princesses from the continent of Africa to now, to slavery, to the people, to the women who were experimented on by J. Marion Sims, who was an unethical, horrible sadist doctor who operated on slave women without anesthesia, and through his work and his experiments on them, we now know everything about gynecology. So anytime you visit a gynecologist, think of Black women. If you're getting vaccinated, think of Black women. Like,
you should. I mean, not you should, but that'd be like if that was a virtual class, I would sign up and watch it. That would be amazing. All right, next question. All right, who are your heroes in real life?
I have so many. I have really been in real life. I've read the stories of Harriet Tubman, and when I close my eyes and I think about what she has endured, or what she did endure, and what she was capable of doing without being able to read, to move on foot in probably in fear for other people, I'm so inspired and motivated to carry on and continue in the work that I do.
Yeah.
Outside of tours, I'm in school improvement.
Yeah.
And I think of like social justice and why I'm here, and what I should be doing for others, and I
Yeah.
always think about Harriet Tubman,
Yeah.
and she's my heroine.
Awesome. Well, Tarika, thank you so much for coming on this show. It was so nice.
Jerica, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you again and get to know more about you. Y'all, please check out Black Girl Magic Tours. Where your social media, she's out there, website's out there. Please check it out. If you're in the Atlanta area, check out the tours. Obviously, it is a fun, COVID-safe thing to do. If you're ever passing through in the Atlanta area, I highly recommend checking out the tours and saying hey to Tarika. Thank y'all again for listening to another episode. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you for having me, Jerica.
All right, we might start our own little show. Just
Because it feels weird. Like now, I feel like I'm trying to say my name the wrong way.
Yeah, it feels weird saying your name because I feel like I'm gonna call you something else, but then it just like when I say it, it just comes out naturally. But yeah, thank y'all again for listening or watching. I'm out. Bye.
Take care. Thank you for having me, Jerica.
All right, we might start our own little show. Just
because it feels weird. Like now, I feel like I'm trying to say my name
something else, but then it just like when I say it, it just comes out naturally. But yeah, thank y'all again for